After nearly saving the world, he was teleported back in time to recover everything he had lost. Now, he must face the same challenges again, but this time with hot chicks by his side. On a dark, empty battlefield, a massive dragon emerges from thick, swirling smoke brought to life. Towering over the scene, the dragon looks down at a group of brave humans standing ready to fight it. The dragon laughs at their foolishness, mocking them for daring to believe they have any chance of defeating it. But the humans stand strong, showing no signs of backing down. They know this is a fight for survival. This dark world, known as the Shadow World, represents the worst disaster humanity has ever faced. Over time, it has wrapped the entire planet in a thick, dark fog that blocks out light and covers everything in darkness. No one really knows what happens inside this mysterious fog. But one thing is clear, nothing can live on the land it touches. The fog spreads slowly, devouring the earth bit by bit. To survive, the humans must defeat the Shadow World, and the dragon Boromir is the last challenge standing in their way. As the humans get ready to battle, Boromir starts charging up a powerful blast of fire, aiming to destroy them in one strike. But just as the fiery attack is about to hit, it suddenly disappears, thanks to the magic of one of the humans. Boromir is taken aback but doesn't give up and prepares to strike again. Meanwhile, Desire, one of the fighters, quickly studies Boromir's magic patterns. Using his unique skills, he's able to seal all of Boromir's magic, shutting down much of the dragon's offense and defense. With Boromir's strength weakened, the rest of the group sees their chance and goes all in with a fierce attack. Boromir tries to strike back, but the tank in the group steps in, blocking his attacks and leaving him open to the others. Together, they use every bit of magic and power they have, allowing the swordswoman to deliver the final, fatal blow. As Boromir dies, he curses the humans, but they watch as the skies above finally clear from the darkness. The team has defeated the Shadow World at last. As the group gathers to celebrate their victory, something feels off. They haven't seen the usual level cleared message that usually pops up when they finish a mission. Desire thinks it's just taking a bit longer, so they decide to wait. Despite their victory, they can't ignore the heavy losses they suffered to get here. Out of the 150 million who came to fight Boromir, only 6 of them have survived. But for now, they try to stay positive, and the priest shifts the conversation to something more cheerful. They all praise Desire for his role in sealing Boromir's magic, realizing they wouldn't have been able to defeat the dragon without his help. They wonder how someone as skilled as Desire remained unnoticed during the war. Desire explains that, as a commoner, he was always looked down. If he'd had the support to grow stronger, he believes he could have achieved even more. The group talks about returning to Earth, and they ask Desire if he plans to return to Hebrian Academy. This makes Desire think of his childhood friend, who died in battle, reminding him that he has no one left to protect. But just as they're reflecting, the intense boss music suddenly starts up again, and they realize something's not right. The dragon isn't fully defeated. The mage in the group figures it out. Boromir's heart holds an enormous amount of mana, and now that he's dead, all that power has nowhere to go. It's building up like a massive bomb that's about to explode, and there's no way to escape it. Desperate, the team braces for impact, using all their magic defenses even though they know they won't be enough. Even Desire's magic interference can't stop a blast of raw mana energy. They prepare themselves for the worst, and Desire, accepting his fate, stares down at his hands, wondering if this really is the end. But when the blast finally hits, he opens his eyes to find himself alive, unharmed, and in a completely different place. Looking around, Desire realizes he's back at Hebrian Academy, younger and somehow in his past. He notices his reflection in a window, confirming that he's in his younger self's body. Just then, he hears applause and turns to see Professor Bridget giving a speech to new students. She announces that only 600 students will be accepted into the academy, and the way they'll be chosen is through a test. Desire recognizes this test as a challenge to clear a shadow world, proving he's truly been transported back in time. Walking away from the crowd, Desire tries to process everything that's happened. The years of fighting, the destruction of the world, and all the people he watched die, it hasn't happened yet. Coming to terms with his situation, he sits down, deep in thought, but is interrupted by a girl named Raydoria, who's assigned to help him with the test. He remembers her as one of the Academy's top students, an expert in fire magic who ranked first in the entrance exam. Lost in thought, Desire ends up staring at her a bit too long, and she asks if something's wrong. Desire quickly replies that he's just nervous about the test. Raydoria reassures him, explaining that the shadow world they'll be going into is a controlled simulation created specifically for the test. As she checks his stats, Raydoria realizes Desire is a commoner. She doesn't mind personally, but she knows that, because of his status, he'll be placed in the beta class even if he passes the test. Desire remembers the Academy's unfair system, which puts nobles in the alpha class and commoners in the beta class, making it nearly impossible for commoners with talent to get a fair chance. But before he can dwell on it, Raydoria leads him to the exam hall, where other students are waiting to take the test. Entering the room, Desire feels nostalgic, but Raydoria notices he's oddly calm. Before she can ask more, they're interrupted by a noble student named Elheim. Elheim mocks Raydoria and Desire, doubting that Desire, as a commoner, will pass the test. Raydoria, pissed, tells Desire to kick his ugly ass by passing the test. In the exam room, Desire spots his childhood friend Romantica. Seeing her alive reminds him of his goal to prevent the tragic future he's already lived through. He greets her, and when she asks how he knows her name, he quickly explains they're in the same testing group. Romantica accepts this, wishing him luck before heading off. Raydoria gives Desire a rundown of the test. A race in the Arani Plains, a low-risk shadow world made for testing purposes. While it's not as dangerous as a real shadow world, students can still use magic to attack each other. As they talk, Elheim returns to taunt Desire, mentioning that his partner in the test is a magic knight named Azist. Raydoria is surprised, but Desire already knows Azist from his past life. She's a skilled knight who can use rare vision magic, and he's relieved to see her alive again, though she's as quiet as he remembers. Elheim, feeling victorious, boasts about having a strong partner, but Raydoria insists that it doesn't prove anything about his own skills. After some back and forth, Raydoria encourages Desire not to lose hope, even if his odds of winning against a magic knight are low. An announcement calls for Group D to prepare, and Desire takes one last look at Romantica, reminding himself of his mission to protect her and everyone else. As the portal opens, he steps inside to kick some asses. As Desire enters the shadow world, the game rules are announced to all participants. To complete the test, they must race to the edge of the shadow world. Only the first 3 to cross the finish line will pass, and any form of interference or force is allowed. However, anyone who takes fatal damage is immediately disqualified. With everyone ready, they line up at the starting line. Desire finds himself beside Azist, thinking about how she survived alongside him in their past lives and even died the same way. He wonders if there's a chance she also remembers the future. Suddenly, Azist calls his name, sparking his excitement that she might recognize him. But when he asks how she knows his name, she replies that she read it on the group test display. She then comments on his pathetic magic circle and low physical abilities, suggesting he has no future here, even if he works hard. Desire realizes she probably doesn't have any memories of their shared past. She also mentions noticing him staring and assures him he has nothing to worry about. She has no intention of interfering in his race since she sees him as worthless loser. The countdown to the race begins, and as soon as it hits 0, Azist surges forward, quickly taking the lead, with 2 others close behind, leaving the rest, including Desire and Romantica, trailing behind. Desire and Romantica run side by side, but Romantica accidentally bumps into a small creature hidden in the grass. Finding it adorable, she pauses to marvel at it, making Desire smile as he recalls her love for cute things. To Romantica, however, Desire is just a stranger chatting her up during an exam, so she assumes he's hitting on her and tells him to focus on the race. Desire agrees but points out that if they don't pick up the pace, they'll both be disqualified. Romantica, annoyed, snaps back that she won't end up like him. Desire just grins, enjoying the chance to be near her again, which only makes her angrier. Just then, Desire notices something and quickly pushes Romantica aside, barely avoiding a flaming arrow aimed at her. The attacker, a fellow competitor, is trying to eliminate others to improve his chances of winning. As he fires another shot, Romantica counters with a wind spell that collides with his, creating a huge dust cloud. When the dust settles, Romantica's spell is still headed toward him, hitting him and knocking him out of the test, leaving only 5 participants. Romantica thanks Desire for saving her, but quickly adds that now they're even and she doesn't owe him anything more. Desire just smiles and nods, which irritates her again. Desire points out that the other racers are still far ahead, and they'll need to hurry to catch up. Confidently, Romantica reveals that she has a way to handle the problem. Although she hoped to save her next move for later, the situation calls for it, so she begins preparing a powerful spell aiming to close the gap in the race. While the students are racing through the shadow world, the professors are watching and evaluating them in a separate room. They're particularly excited to see Azist, a powerful magic knight, in Group D. However, one professor brings up Desire, a commoner also in the group. Immediately, most of the professors dismiss him, assuming he has no chance because of his low social status. But Professor Bryjet, noticing something different about Desire, pays close attention to his progress, intrigued by his potential. Up at the front of the race, Azist is leading with 2 other students behind her. One of them has already accepted that he won't be able to beat Azist but hopes he can at least make it to the top 3. But suddenly, a fierce wind pushes them all backward. The second runner plants his sword into the ground to avoid being blown away. He looks ahead and sees Azist charging straight through the wind with no hesitation. Feeling inspired, he digs in and pushes forward, But before he can get far, a large tree crashes down, taking him and the other runner out of the race. Now, only Azist, Desire, and Romantica are left in the game. With 3 participants remaining, all could technically pass without further fighting. But Romantica decides she wants to eliminate Desire. Romantica turns to Desire, warning him to drop out of the race before he gets hurt. Desire, confused, asks why she's targeting him. She bluntly responds that his constant smiling is annoying her. Desire refuses to back down, and Romantica, frustrated, decides to take him out herself. Summoning several magic circles, she sends a powerful wind strike toward Desire. Satisfied, she turns to walk away, assuming she's won. But then Desire comments on her control over magic circles, surprising her. She turns around, shocked to see him unharmed. Desire even starts giving her advice on how she could improve her spells, saying if she took a little more time, her magic would be stronger. Romantica, growing angrier, insists it was just luck he avoided her attack and tries again, but Desire once again redirects her spell. She realizes he's reversing her spells somehow, which doesn't make sense since he's supposed to be much weaker in magic. Getting desperate, Romantica fires multiple spells at him, hoping to overwhelm him, but Desire deflects them with ease, having dealt with much worse in his past life. As he watches her struggle, he considers Romantica's potential. She's strong and more skilled than most students, but it's still not enough to survive the dangers of the future. To ensure she has a chance to improve, Desire decides that he needs to win this race himself. Desire becomes serious, nullifying all her spells and leaving her completely exhausted. He could knock her out of the race, but instead, he decides to offer her some advice. First, he casts a spell called Grease on himself, explaining that it's usually used to make enemies slip, but he's using it to speed himself up. He points out that this is a race, not a fight, so she's wasting her energy attacking him. Lastly, he explains that since it's just a test, they won't be seriously harmed, which means he can use risky moves like launching himself forward with a fire spell. Before Romantica can respond, he activates the spell, propelling himself forward and leaving her behind. Up ahead, Azist notices Desire catching up and realizes he might pass her. She turns to face him, apologizing for underestimating him before. She creates multiple magic circles, forcing Desire to deactivate Grease and start reversing her spells. She fires quickly, hoping to catch him off guard, but Desire manages to redirect her attacks, keeping himself safe. Impressed, Azist fires one last quick spell, but Desire redirects it behind him, reactivates Grease, and zooms past her. Reminding her that this is a race, not a battle, he crosses the finish line first, winning the competition. After the race, the professors begin placing students in classes. As expected, all the commoners are put into beta class, while the nobles go to alpha class. The elitist professors seem pleased to keep commoners out of the elite class, though Bryjet and a few other teachers disagree. Bryjet, impressed by Desire's skill and victory over nobles, argues that he deserves to be an alpha. Despite her efforts, the other professors refuse, and Desire is assigned to beta. Desire isn't bothered, as he was in beta last year as well, but he notices that Romantica is upset about being placed in beta, especially since the classroom is in poor shape. Their teacher explains that magic circle levels, from 1 to 7, measure a magician's power, and that only those at level 2 and higher make it into alpha. Romantica, a level 2, feels it's unfair she's in beta, and she's even more annoyed to be seated next to Desire, who won't stop smiling. Desire recalls his meeting with Bryjet after the test, where she congratulated him for his performance and told him she'd tried to get him into alpha. Desire realizes there must be other talented students in beta who haven't been given a fair chance to grow. Determined to prepare these students for future challenges, he decides to find and help them reach their potential. Later, Romantica is sitting alone, still disappointed about being in beta, when an alpha student named Noda approaches her. Introducing himself, he invites her to join the Blue Moon Party, a group of top alpha students. Romantica, excited about the opportunity, is about to accept when Noda suddenly proposes they go out, saying he fell in love with her during the exam. Stunned, she hesitates, unsure if he's serious, but he gives her a necklace as a token, hoping she'll think about his offer. As she's processing this, Romantica turns and sees Desire standing behind her, which startles her. She asks what he wants, and he invites her to join his party, without the romance. Amused, she dismisses his offer, preferring Blue Moon. But Desire, remembering the regret she felt after joining Blue Moon in his past life, wants to prevent her from making the same mistake. Out of options, he hands her a letter, asking her to read it alone and destroy it afterward. Curious, she reads it later and is shocked by its contents. Meanwhile, Desire walks through the halls, wondering how Romantica will react to the letter, knowing she might be upset but believing it's necessary. Then, he notices Pram, a quiet boy sitting nearby, and realizes he's found another hidden talent. In Desire's past life, Pram became one of the fastest swordsmen despite having little training. This time, Desire hopes to help him reach his full potential. As he considers how to approach Pram, Romantica hurries over, looking surprised by the letter and demands answers. Desire calmly tells her to wait as practice matches are about to start. Just then, Romantica notices Pram and is surprised by his cute appearance, even though it's clear he's a boy. As the practice matches begin, Pram heads to pick out his weapon. To everyone's shock, he chooses an enormous sword almost as tall as he is. Desire is stunned, remembering that Pram didn't use a sword like this on the battlefield. Romantica is also skeptical, wondering if Pram can handle something that large and heavy. But soon, they'll find out as Pram's match is about to start. Pram introduces himself to his opponent, an Alpha class student named Percival. However, Percival has no interest in getting to know a Beta class student he considers beneath him, so he skips any formalities and launches straight into the fight. But things don't go as Percival expects. Despite his small frame, Pram surprises him with his powerful swings. Percival struggles to keep up, shocked to find himself getting pushed back by a Beta class student. Humiliated, Percival can't stand the thought of being outmatched, so he goes all out, attacking with full force. Pram, though inexperienced with such a large sword, holds his ground, relying on his raw strength. Desire notices that Pram could easily win if he were using a weapon he was more familiar with, making him wonder why Pram didn't pick his usual sword. As the two go back and forth, Pram's inexperience begins to show. After a few intense exchanges, he loses his balance, swinging wildly and missing entirely. Percival sees his chance and takes it, countering Pram's attack and knocking him to the ground. Pram admits defeat, knowing he lost because his sword was knocked out of his hand. Percival, feeling his pride wounded from being pushed back, refuses to let it end there. He starts punching Pram, taking out his frustration. Seeing this, Desire rushes to help while the referee stands by, doing nothing. By the time Desire arrives, Pram has taken several punches. Desire steps between them, sternly telling Percival that the match is over and accusing him of being jealous of Pram's skill. Furious, Percival swings his sword at Desire's head, but Desire blocks the blow, snapping Percival's sword. With a cold glare, Desire silently warns Percival to back off. Getting the message, Percival retreats but vows he won't forget Desire's interference. After the incident, Romantica and Pram take Desire to a waiting room to tend to his injured arm. Although Desire used magic to absorb most of the impact, his arm will still need some time to heal. Pram, feeling responsible for dragging Desire into his problems, sincerely apologizes. Romantica, watching him apologize, can't help but think he's cute. Pram introduces himself to Desire, but before Desire can respond, Romantica jumps in, introducing herself first and taking over the conversation. She keeps steering the discussion, clearly showing her interest in Pram. After a friendly chat, Pram thanks Desire again for stepping in and offers his help anytime Desire might need it. Desire appreciates the offer, saying he'll remember it. As Pram leaves, Desire turns to Romantica, suggesting they discuss something important. They walk to a quiet area behind the school, and Romantica immediately asks if anyone else knows the secret Desire mentioned in his letter. Desire reassures her that only the professors know, which is why they placed her in the Beta class. Her secret is that her father was once a wealthy merchant who bought a noble title from a struggling noble family, giving their family the noble name Eru. Even with the title, most nobles don't consider them true nobles because they're new money. Desire explains that he wants her to turn down Donta's offer to join the Blue Moon Party because, once the nobles learn about her background, they'll likely reject her. Even if she thinks Donta could protect her, he's just as biased as the others. Desire invites Romantica to join his party instead. Romantica suspects he might be using her secret to pressure her, but Desire assures her he isn't interested in blackmail. Instead, he points out that Pram will be in the party too, which convinces her to agree. Reluctantly, she joins Desire's party, though she admits she still finds him annoying. Later, we see a memory from Pram's childhood. His mother tries to reassure him that his father, who left and never returned, still loves him. She gives Pram a sword, saying it was a gift from his father to show he cares. In Pram's dream, he realizes that his father never came back, and the sword still hangs on his wall as a reminder of his absence. The following day, Desire takes Romantica and Pram to an office to officially register their party. They knock on the door, and Professor Brijet invites them in. She offers them snacks and gets to the point, asking Desire why he wants to form a party. Desire explains that he aims to advance to the Alpha class by winning the ranking exam. Pram asks if the exam is as difficult as it sounds, and Brijet explains that the ranking exam is a tough tournament for both Alpha and Beta students. In the tournament, students form teams of 3 to 6 and compete against each other. Larger teams have an advantage, but individual contributions are also considered in the rankings. The exam evaluates students' abilities, and those who reach the finals face their greatest challenge in a shadow world. Only those who become single rankers in the finals can move up from Beta to Alpha. No beta student has ever moved to alpha, as only alpha students usually make it to the finals. Desire explains that he's determined to win with a small team to prove that beta students are as capable as alphas. Ryjet supports his goal, hoping their success might bring positive change to the Academy's bias system. She asks Romantica and Pram if they're ready to commit to joining Desire's party. Both agree, eager to start training for the tournament. They head to the training grounds, but the only space available for beta students is an old, dusty room that looks like it hasn't been used in years. The room is filled with cobwebs, broken floorboards, and even some rats. Romantica and Pram are horrified, especially by the rats, and beg Desire not to make them train there. Desire agrees that the rats are a problem and offers to handle them himself, but he says Romantica will need to help clean up the room. Once Desire clears out the rats, Romantica cleans the room, though she looks exhausted by the end. Pram, who fainted at the sight of the rats, apologizes for not being able to help. Desire reassures him, and they prepare to start training. Romantica, already worn out from cleaning, would rather skip training, but Desire insists it's necessary if they want to become single rankers. For Romantica's first exercise, Desire wants her to improve her magic accuracy. She confidently summons 7 magic circles and hits a target directly in the center. Desire acknowledges her skill but challenges her to hit the exact same spot with all 7 spells at once. Romantica thinks it's impossible, but Desire reminds her that her future self managed to do this during a real battle. Reluctantly, Romantica agrees to try. Desire then gives her a small white ball and asks her to move it into a target circle using only her wind magic. She tries to throw it, but Desire clarifies that she must use magic to guide it. Since wind magic is her specialty, she practices the exercise and, after some time, manages to move the ball into the circle. Desire praises her progress, encouraging her to keep practicing until she perfects her control. When it's Pram's turn for training, Desire surprises him by saying, "There's actually nothing new I can teach you." Pram looks confused and disappointed. Desire goes on to explain that Pram already has everything he needs to succeed in the tournament. He just has to bring out his true strengths. But Pram, still feeling down about his last defeat, doesn't believe this as much as Desire does. Desire reassures him by pointing out that Pram has a lot of natural talent. In the future timeline, Pram became a skilled fighter with a rapier, a thin, light sword that matched his quick and precise fighting style perfectly. Desire wonders why Pram used a heavy sword in his recent match, something that didn't suit his strengths. Pram seems hesitant to explain, but Desire insists, saying it would help the team to know his reasons. After a moment, Pram agrees but asks to speak in private. Pram takes Desire back to his room and pulls out a slim rapier. This is no ordinary sword, it's the only thing Pram's father left him. Pram explains that his father was a noble, while his mother was a commoner. His father left the family when Pram was still a baby, so he doesn't know him at all. All he has from his father is this rapier, which Pram grew up believing was a symbol of his father's love for him. Pram trained hard with it, hoping he would one day meet his father and make him proud. But just before she died, Pram's mother told him not to go looking for his father. She explained that the noble world is dangerous for someone like him, a noble son born from a commoner. The noble family would see him as a disgrace. Desire realizes that Pram's mother was trying to protect him from possible harm and rejection. Despite her warnings, Pram still came to the academy, hoping he'd find clues about his father's identity since nobles from all over attend this school. He even took the rapier to an appraiser, who said it was worthless. Heartbroken, Pram felt the rapier he had treasured for years as a symbol of his father's love was actually just an ordinary sword. After that, he gave up on his father and decided never to use the rapier again. The next day, Pram returns to training with a smaller, more practical sword, while Romantica keeps practicing her magic. She's getting better at moving the training ball with her magic, though she still needs to improve her control. Suddenly, Desire remembers something and asks Pram if he can see the rapier again. Pram, looking a little upset, admits that he sold it to a pawn shop because he didn't want to keep a worthless sword. Following Pram's directions, Desire finds himself in an older part of town that brings back memories of his past life. Pram directs him down a narrow alley to a pawn shop with a sign that reads, "No refunds, ever." This isn't exactly a fair place. Pram admits he never wants to see the sword again, but Desire insists it's worth too much to leave behind. Inside, they meet Woojikyun, the shop owner. He's recognized as Pram from the day before. Woojikyun asks if they're here to buy or sell, and Desire tells him they're here to buy back the rapier Pram sold. Woojikyun reminds them of the no-refund policy, but Desire clarifies that they're here to buy it back, not get a refund. Woojikyun grins and pulls out the rapier, explaining that he told Pram it had no value as a weapon, but there's something unique about it. Pram is surprised, feeling he might have made a mistake by selling it so quickly. Desire reveals that the rapier is actually a chuan, a rare gift that nobles give to people they care about. Woojikyun is impressed that Desire knows this and explains that Chuans are very valuable. Realizing he made a big mistake, Pram feels foolish for selling it. Desire asks for the price, and Woojikyun demands 40 silver. Pram, shocked, complains that he was only paid 3 silver for it. But Woojikyun shrugs, saying he bought it as a worthless sword but is now selling it as a Chuan. So tough luck. Without hesitation, Desire pays the 40 silver, surprising Woojikyun, who doubts Desire can even unlock the rapier's full potential. Desire carefully inspects the sword and then hands it back to Pram, who takes it reluctantly, trusting Desire's confidence. Desire tells him to unsheath it, and as Pram does, the blade begins to glow with a brilliant blue light, even surprising Woojikyun. Desire explains that the rapier is made from a rare metal called blancium, which is lighter than a feather yet stronger than steel, making it one of the best materials for a weapon. As they get ready to leave, Woojikyun, frustrated at losing such a valuable item, demands that they give the sword back, threatening to have his guard take it by force. Desire calmly points out the sold as his policy, reminding Woojikyun of his own words. Tough luck. Furious, Woojikyun orders his guard to get the sword back by force. The guard charges at Desire, but Pram steps in, holding the rapier with determination, ready to defend his teammate. Desire watches as Pram moves with impressive speed, using the rapier skillfully. Although Pram is fast, Desire knows that one strong hit from the guard could be dangerous. The guard, noticing Pram's skill, starts enjoying the challenge and swings his weapon with full force. But Pram dodges, using his speed to evade and strike the guard with multiple slashes. Realizing Pram's speed, the guard shifts to a defensive stance to block his quick strikes. Pram quickly observes the guard's stance and decides he needs to aim for a vital spot to end the fight. However, due to his lack of experience, his attack is predictable, and the guard easily blocks it, landing a heavy kick that sends Pram flying across the shop. Pram falls to his knees, stunned, but Desire calls out, encouraging him to believe in his father's intentions when he gave him the rapier. Regaining his determination, Pram stands up, gripping the sword tightly. Even though he doesn't fully understand why his father left him the rapier, he decides to trust in it. Pram charges forward again, dodging the guard's traps and carefully watching his moves. As the guard swings, Pram quickly sidesteps and slips behind him. Anticipating the guard's counter, Pram swiftly blocks the attack and slices the guard's sword in half, finally knocking him out. Desire congratulates Pram on the impressive victory, and they prepare to leave. But Woojikyun makes a final attempt to keep the sword, bragging that the door is heavily reinforced and they can't leave without handing it over. Pram, done with any more talk, slices through the door, creating an exit. As they leave, Desire suggests they celebrate with some food, treating Pram to meat skewers from a nearby stand. Pram thanks him, not just for the meal but also for helping him get his father's sword back and believing in him. Desire assures him it's natural, they're teammates, and teammates look out for each other. Touched by Desire's words, Pram realizes he finally has a friend who genuinely cares about him. Meanwhile, back in the training room, Romantica successfully moves the practice ball into the target circle using her magic. Proud of herself, she looks around, hoping her teammates will see her accomplishment, only to realize no one is there. Shaking off her disappointment, she decides to try the other exercise Desire suggested, casting multiple spells at once and hitting the exact same spot with all of them. After a few tries, she finally succeeds, feeling proud of her progress. Later, she heads to the Alpha class cafeteria to meet Donta, who had invited her to join the Blue Moon party. Confident, Donta treats her to a meal, assuming she's about to accept his offer, but Romantica surprises him by saying she's actually come to turn him down. Donta, shocked, asks if this means she doesn't want to date him either. Romantica explains that she joined a beta class party, and though she was unsure at first, she's really started to enjoy it. She reminds Donta that he once called all beta students worthless trash. He still believes this, but Romantica reveals something he wasn't expecting: she used to be a commoner too. Donta's expression instantly changes to one of disgust, proving Desire's prediction correct. Trying to cover up his reaction, Donta assumes she's joking, but Romantica assures him she's serious, explaining that it's also why she was placed in the beta class. She adds that her teammates accept her without judgment, unlike him. Donta admits he wouldn't have invited her if he'd known her background. Romantica, preparing to leave, mentions that Desire was right about his reaction. Before she goes, she tells him her party is determined to rank up to the Alpha class, making them rivals from here on out. She thanks him for the meal and walks away. As she leaves, Donta sits in silent anger, recalling his deep resentment toward commoners, which began when he watched his parents die in a revolution led by commoners. The next phase of Desire's plan unfolds with the beginning of the ranking tournament qualifiers. With Romantica, Pram, and Desire all in sync, they easily defeat one team after another. Their powerful teamwork and strategic moves allow them to climb the ranks at an astonishing pace, going from 150th place up to the top 30 in no time. Each victory gets them closer to the finals, and the speed of their rise even grabs the attention of the academy. Professor Bridget, who has always believed in them, is thrilled to see how well they're doing, but she also knows their success will likely attract negative attention from the higher-ranking students, as the news of a beta class team making it into the top 30 spreads around campus and even appears in the newspapers. The noble Blue Moon group takes notice, and not in a good way. The head of Blue Moon, furious that a group of commoners is making it so far, decides he won't let this go on. He sees the beta team as a direct threat to his precious alpha class and can't stand the thought of commoners breaking into the elite circle. He immediately orders the Blue Moon team to do everything possible to prevent Desir's group from becoming single rankers, which would secure them a spot in alpha class. To ensure Desir's team fails, the Blue Moon head puts Azist in charge of defeating them in the finals. Azist, who had previously lost to Desire, accepts the responsibility without hesitation. Although she doesn't dislike commoners as much as other nobles do, she wants a rematch with Desire. Her only reason for fighting him again is to prove that she can win. She sees this as a chance to redeem herself and remove the only loss on her record. As she leaves the office, two other Blue Moon members, Dota and Percival, approach her. They agree to her leadership but each have a personal score to settle. Having had earlier confrontations with Romantica and Pram, they insist on handling those two themselves. Azist doesn't think this is a good idea, seeing as their need for revenge is based on ego rather than strategy. But she accepts their conditions, understanding her own rematch with Desire is also somewhat personal. Back with Desire's team, he starts preparing them for the finals, instead of more physical training. He takes them to the library for a study session on history, explaining that knowing certain historical events could give them an edge. In Shadow Worlds, scenarios often recreate parts of history, and by understanding the events that might be represented, they could be prepared for what might happen. Romantica isn't thrilled about this plan and complains about having to read thick, heavy books, but Desire explains that it's better to focus on a few specific events he has chosen rather than read everything. Desire's selections aren't random. He remembers what will happen in the finals and is preparing them specifically for that scenario. Hours pass as they study, and at one point, Romantica notices that Pram is looking at Desire with admiration. Amused, she teases Pram about the time he and Desire went shopping together, mentioning how they even grabbed food, laughing at the idea that Pram might have a hero worship crush. Pram grows flustered while Romantica keeps poking fun, asking what he really thinks of Desire. Desire, trying to stay focused on his book, pretends not to notice their conversation. But when Romantica accidentally sends a book flying that lands on his head, he looks up and tells them to get back to reading, smiling at their harmless banter. Embarrassed, they quickly go back to their books. Out of nowhere, Azist walks in and stands beside Desire, ignoring Romantica and Pram's curious stares. She congratulates him on reaching the top 30 and tells him she's here to officially challenge him, as she wants a rematch. She admits she underestimated him before and promises not to make the same mistake this time. She's determined to win in the finals and proves she's stronger. Desire sees that her competitive spirit has grown, which was his goal. He had pushed himself in their first battle to motivate her to grow stronger, knowing she had the potential to do more. Azist walks away, focused on the upcoming tournament. Finally, the day of the ranking tournament finals arrives, and the stadium is filled with eager spectators. The event has drawn a huge crowd, and the energy in the stadium is intense. Romantica and Pram comment on the noise and excitement, feeling the weight of the competition and the high expectations. With so much on the line, Desire knows they have to give it their all, but he's confident in his team's abilities. As they line up alongside other teams, the Blue Moon members glance at Desire and his team, unimpressed at first. Although they've been warned to take Desire seriously, they don't think he'll be a major challenge. However, they're prepared to do whatever it takes to stop him, planning to target him as soon as the match begins. The announcer's voice booms across the stadium, explaining the rules of the final round. The contestants will be transported into a shadow world where they must solve an unknown incident. The exact objective is not revealed, adding an element of mystery and challenge. In this round, players are allowed to use any means necessary to win, including weapons and magic, and they can even attack each other. However, if anyone receives a fatal blow, they'll be immediately disqualified and removed from the shadow world. The gates to the shadow world open, and the teams are instructed to enter in an orderly fashion. As soon as Desire steps through, he realizes he's been separated from Romantica and Pram. It appears that each contestant has been randomly teleported to different locations. Desire's first priority is to find his teammates so they can regroup and plan their strategy, but before he can start, he senses something coming his way. An ice bolt flies past his head, narrowly missing him. One of the Blue Moon members has spotted him and is attempting to eliminate him early in the round. She quickly launches another ice spell, which Desire counters with fire. Not backing down, she casts two spells simultaneously. First, a water spell to drench the area around him, then an ice spell to freeze the water into hundreds of sharp shards. She even layers a wind spell to form a tornado around Desire, creating a storm of ice shards designed to trap him. Confident in her abilities, she believes no commoner could possibly survive her high-level magic. Desire calmly observes her attack, unimpressed. He realizes her biggest flaw is her poor aim and remarks on it, snapping his fingers to dispel her magic completely. Shocked, she stares as her most powerful spell vanishes before her eyes, realizing that Desire's magic level is far above hers. In a swift move, Desire takes control of her ice shards and redirects them back at her. Determined to resist, she raises a shield, convinced it will block the attack, but Desire expertly maneuvers the shards around her shield, hitting her directly. The blow knocks her out of the match, leaving her in disbelief at how easily she was defeated. With one Blue Moon member down, Desire continues onward, knowing that many more challenges await him. With 29 opponents still in play, he's ready to face whatever comes next. In the ranking tournament, one student ends up in a sunny field and immediately starts whining about the sun, worried he'll get a sunburn. He's just starting to relax, enjoying a breeze, when that light breeze turns into a strong wind blast that knocks him straight off his feet. Romantica, using her wind magic, hits him hard enough to eliminate him from the game, bringing the countdown to 27 players. Meanwhile, Pram and Romantica luckily end up near each other when they teleport, but Desire is nowhere in sight. They realize they'll just have to keep moving on their own for now. Romantica uses her magic to sense nearby players and picks up on 2 grouped players and another player off alone. She decides to aim for the solo player, but just as her spell closes in, it suddenly changes color and vanishes. At that moment, the 2 grouped players she sensed arrive and catch her and Pram by surprise. They laugh at Romantica's basic mistake, saying that wide-range detection spells also reveal the user's location, and mock her for not knowing this. Annoyed, Romantica plans to show them who the real fool is. These 2 players, both from the Alpha class, seem to think they're much stronger than Romantica and Pram, just because Romantica and Pram are in the Beta class. But before one of them can finish bragging, Pram jumps in with a surprise attack on the swordsman. The swordsman, however, blocks Pram's strike and easily pushes him back, forcing him to regroup with Romantica. Seeing his teammate engage, the magician on their team fires off a spell directly at Pram. But Pram's quick reflexes kick in, and he dodges with impressive speed, moving so fast that he's almost a blur. The Alpha class students are taken aback, not expecting this from a Beta class student. Still, the swordsman refuses to believe Pram is a match. To gain control, he smashes his sword into the ground to create a dust cloud, hoping to block Pram's movements and make it hard for Romantica to see. He then asks his partner to cast a large area of effect spell to trap Pram. Unfortunately for them, Romantica immediately picks up on the magic and fires a precise shot at the magician, stopping the spell before it can even begin. Their plan backfires, leaving them exposed. Furious, the swordsman tries to go after Romantica, but Pram gets behind him and reminds him that it's not wise to get distracted in the middle of a fight. Stuck between both Pram and Romantica, the swordsman quickly finds himself overwhelmed and defeated. If he had gone for Romantica first, he might have stood a chance, but his arrogance got the better of him. With the fight over, Romantica calls out to Desire, knowing he must have been watching the whole time. Sure enough, Desire steps out from his hiding spot, admitting he wanted to see how they handled themselves. He praises their teamwork, lightly patting Pram on the head, which Pram appreciates. Then, seeing Romantica quiet, he assumes she also wants a pat and gives her a quick one. Romantica gets embarrassed, insisting that she doesn't like head pats, but Desire just laughs, clearly proud of how well they did. However, they know the real challenges in the Shadow World are still ahead. Somewhere else in the forest, another Alpha class team takes down a student. The leader of the team tells the defeated player that it was just bad luck that they ended up on opposite sides. Desire's team hears the announcement of this elimination but focuses on their own strategy. Desire explains that their main goal isn't to clear the Shadow World completely but to survive long enough to rank in the top 9, which would allow them to move up in the academy. Clearing the Shadow World could get them targeted by all the Alpha class teams, so they're better off focusing on survival and picking off stray players here and there. At this point, there are 18 players left, meaning they need 9 more eliminations to reach their goal. Though it sounds challenging, Pram feels positive about their chances. Suddenly, it begins pouring rain, and they run for cover under a large tree. As they wait for the rain to stop, Romantica reflects on how far she's come thanks to Desire's advice and training. She realizes that if she had joined Donta's Alpha class team, he probably would have rejected her as soon as he learned she was once a commoner. Remembering his disgusted reaction when she told him, she feels relieved she trusted Desire's advice to stay away from Donta. Sensing her thoughts, Desire places a comforting hand on both Pram and Romantica's shoulders, telling them they're both strong and capable. Romantica, pretending she doesn't like the head pats, jokes about it, but Pram actually enjoys the encouragement. Just then, the distant clock tower begins chiming, marking the start of the Shadow World's next phase, or calamity. Thanks to their earlier study session, they know this means the previous clock tower, a magical tower, is about to release waves of monsters that they'll have to survive. Back in the viewing area, professors watch the tournament unfold, expecting the calamity phase to be what finally eliminates the beta class students. Moments later, Desire and his team hear a scream in the distance and realize the monsters have already started attacking. Desire warns Romantica and Pram to prepare, as they're likely going to face a strong enemy, a giant rat monster that commands a swarm of smaller rats. Romantica and Pram, both still haunted by memories of the rat-infested training room, feel uneasy, but even Desire seems nervous and urges them to run if they want to survive. The three sprint through the forest, leaping over logs as the rats close in behind them. Romantica trips, but Pram helps her up, and they keep moving. Desire knows that to stop the swarm, they'll need to take down the leader rat in charge. This is nearly impossible with all the smaller rats shielding it, so he decides to try luring it out. He bites his finger, using a drop of blood as bait to attract the leader rat. Smelling the blood, the leader rat leaps from the swarm, but Romantica blasts it with a spell before it can strike. However, her attack isn't enough to kill it, and the leader rat quickly retreats back into the swarm. Desire realizes they need a better strategy and is about to order a retreat, but Pram charges forward, diving right into the thick of the rat swarm. Although Desire is terrified for Pram's safety, Pram stays focused, sensing the leader rat within the horde. Just as Desire is about to lose hope, Pram bursts out of the swarm, exhausted but victorious, having defeated the leader rat. With the leader gone, the other rats scatter, and Desire lets Pram rest, proud of his courage. Once Pram has recovered, the team heads for the previous clock tower, believing that's where the main event will happen. Meanwhile, the Blue Moon team has also reached the tower and realizes they might win if they can take control of it. Just as they start planning, they feel a strong gust of wind. Azist, quick to react, creates an ice wall to block an incoming attack. Although she and her main teammates survive, two of their less experienced members are eliminated instantly. Azist is shocked, trying to figure out who could have detected their location and attacked so accurately. The only team she suspects might have that level of skill is Desire's. With this attack, Desire's team has successfully eliminated 2 more players, leaving only 15 participants remaining in the Shadow World. Azist and her Blue Moon teammates head straight toward Desire, determined to beat him. Romantica keeps trying to slow them down with wind blasts, but now that Blue Moon is on high alert, they're able to dodge and counter her attacks. Even when Romantica throws a tricky curveball, they're ready. At this point, her attacks have completely given away their position, so it's only a matter of time before Blue Moon reaches them. Desire, though, has a plan. He tells Romantica to start aiming her wind blasts at the other teams instead of Blue Moon. At first, she's confused because attacking everyone else could make all the teams target them. But she trusts Desire's strategy and starts attacking other groups. This causes 2 players to be eliminated, leaving only 13 participants in the tournament. With that done, Desire heads into the tower to search for a hidden door he knows about. When Blue Moon finally gets inside, they run into other Alpha class teams. The other teams are angry, blaming Blue Moon for sneak attacks that have been hitting them throughout the match. Azist tries to explain that they aren't responsible, but they don't believe her, thinking she's the only one skilled enough to pull off such attacks. Azist realizes explaining is pointless, so she decides to fight them instead. The Fire Mage from one team attacks her with his strongest spell, but it doesn't faze her. She quickly counters and knocks him back, freezing another teammate in place. The remaining 2 Alpha class teams decide to work together to try and take her down, but Azist still has the upper hand, handling them one by one. From above, Desire's team listens to the sounds of the battle. At first, they think Azist is about to be taken out, but then the fight dies down, and Desire realizes his plan didn't work as he hoped. Azist soon arrives upstairs, unharmed, with her teammates, Donta and Percival. She figures out that Desire's plan was to make Blue Moon and the other Alpha teams fight each other to thin out the competition. She froze them all instead, making sure they couldn't be eliminated. She smirks, acknowledging that Desire's plan was clever, but she's ready for a rematch. Azist sets up large ice pillars to isolate Desire so they can have their showdown, leaving Romantica and Pram to deal with Donta and Percival. Right away, Percival charges at Pram, while Donta closes in on Romantica, eager to settle their grudges. Percival and Pram clash with their swords, but Pram has the upper hand now that he's using a sword he's comfortable with. Percival can't understand how Pram has become so skilled since their last fight. He's outmatched but still clings to his pride, hoping Donta will back him up. Meanwhile, Romantica tries to keep her distance from Donta since, as a magician, she's at a disadvantage in close combat. Donta, however, uses a magical ring to clear the fog from the battlefield, revealing Romantica's position. She recognizes the ring as the one he once gave her as a gift, but now he claims it's too good for a commoner. Romantica, frustrated by his arrogance, realizes there's no getting through to him. Donta goes on a rant about how nobles are naturally superior to commoners in every way, insisting that commoners are practically a different species. Romantica sees how irrational he is and understands that reasoning with him is pointless. Donta uses his ring to create a ring of fire around her, trapping her. At first, she dodges the flames, but a blast sends her flying. Pram rushes over to check on her. She's okay but exhausted and low on magic, so she asks Pram to cover for her while she catches her breath. However, Donta isn't done and traps Pram in a rock formation before going after Romantica again. Pram manages to break free and intercepts Donta, forcing him to retreat for now. Percival yells at Donta, frustrated because he wanted to handle Pram himself, but one look at Donta's face shows he's too focused on Romantica to care. This single-minded determination actually gives Pram an advantage. Romantica realizes she's running out of magic and worries she'll slow Pram down, so she suggests he leave her to face Donta alone. Pram quickly dismisses this idea, saying it would be reckless for her to fight alone. He refuses to leave her side until the fight is over. Meanwhile, Desire and Aziz battle intensely upstairs. Aziz tries to strike first with an ice spell, but Desire counters it instantly using his magic inversion ability. She attempts to move closer using a mobility spell, but Desire inverts that too, stopping her in her tracks. Nothing she throws at him seems to work, while he's able to launch attacks at her. He catches her off guard with a tornado of flames, but Aziz is too skilled to be taken down that easily. As their battle goes on, Aziz becomes more and more frustrated. She's stronger and has more magic than Desire, yet she can't seem to gain the upper hand. Although Desire is a magician, he has incredible battle experience and is able to handle both close combat and magic, putting her on the defensive. Finally, her power throws him back against a wall, but he still remains focused, complementing her strength. Desire recalls that in the previous timeline, Aziz was often bored because no one could truly challenge her. Although she won't admit it, he senses she's excited to face him as an equal. Determined to defeat him, she decides to unleash her most powerful spell, Frozen Throne. This spell, known as Vision Magic, allows her to use ice magic without limits in a set area. Even in the past, Desire was never able to counter it. Aziz's Frozen Throne fills the room with ice spikes, trapping Desire in all directions. Magic circles appear around him, ready to fire ice spells. Aziz bombards him with waves of attacks, and Desire keeps countering each one with inversion. Her Frozen Throne lets her recreate the magic circles instantly, forcing Desire to keep up a continuous defense. Despite her relentless attacks, Desire keeps breaking her spells, and Aziz quickly realizes that even her best efforts aren't enough. No matter how fast she recreates her magic, Desire's inversion neutralizes everything. Frustrated and out of options, she finally has a breakthrough idea. Instead of just using magic or her sword alone, she decides to combine both. She dispels her Frozen Throne, concentrating all her ice magic into her sword. The blade glows with a powerful blue light, a sight even Desire finds impressive. With this new combination of physical and magical strength, Aziz has finally unlocked her true potential as a magic swordswoman. Downstairs, Pram and Donta were locked in an intense fight as Romantica watched from a distance. Donta's wild, crazed look wasn't doing him any favors, none of his attacks were connecting with Pram. Spotting a chance, Pram delivered a solid kick that sent Donta flying back against the wall. Pram could tell Donta was a powerful opponent, and if Donta was thinking clearly, beating him would be much tougher. Pram needed to finish this quickly before Percival joined in, making it a 2-on-1 fight. That last kick seemed to knock Donta out of his daze, making him realize how reckless he'd been fighting. He quickly called out to Percival for help. Just then, Pram knew he was about to be double-teamed. Percival, with a determined look, picked up his sword and ran at Pram. But instead of getting close, he threw his sword at him. Pram managed to block it, but that was all part of the plan. Donta had used the distraction to sneak up on Pram from behind. As Pram turned to face Donta, Percival caught his own sword and came charging from the opposite side. They coordinated their attack perfectly, but they overlooked one thing: Romantica had regained enough of her magic to blast them both at close range with a powerful wind attack. Meanwhile, upstairs, Aziz had just finished summoning her magic sword, a technique that usually takes years to master, even for a magic knight. Driven by her desire to defeat Desire, she managed to manifest it in record time. She charged at Desire, who tried to slow her down with stone magic, but her magic sword cut right through it. He tried a fire spell next, but it was equally ineffective. Aziz's confident sword, it looked like Desire's magic reversal skill couldn't affect her magic sword. She went in for what she believed would be the final blow, cutting straight through his knife and pressing her sword against his neck. With a sense of victory, she declared her win. But then, she noticed Desire was still casting something, even though it wasn't aimed at her. Throughout the fight, Desire had been focusing on analyzing the magic spell of the clock tower. He had only been stalling her until he could fully understand it. Now, he finished his analysis and deactivated the tower's spell, which cleared the quest and won them the game. Aziz looked up and realized that, while she might have won their duel, she had still lost the bigger battle. Back at the academy, the news spread fast. Desire and his team had cleared the Shadow World Challenge. Professor Bryjet was thrilled, but another professor from the Noble faction wasn't happy. He demanded an emergency meeting with the headmaster, accusing Bryjet of secretly helping the beta students. Despite his claims, he had no evidence. Other teachers thought his complaint was absurd, especially since the whole tournament had been streamed live for everyone to see. After hearing him out, the headmaster decided to let it go and declared Desire's team the official winners. Elsewhere in the academy, Desire explained his strategy to Aziz. His initial plan was to get the Alpha students to fight among themselves until only 9 were left. But when Aziz figured out the plan and challenged him directly, he switched to Plan B. With Blue Moon's members focused on his team, they had completely forgotten about the main quest. Desire's team arrived at the clock tower early, and he began analyzing the ancient spell there. Since it was complex, he had to keep studying it while fighting Aziz to have enough time. Aziz was a bit frustrated. She had given her all to their duel, but Desire had his sights on the main objective. She accepted her loss, realizing just how skilled he was. Just then, Pram and Romantica showed up, both proud of themselves for having defeated Percival and Donta. They sat beside Desire, making it clear that they had his back. Desire thanked Romantica, knowing they won largely thanks to her skill in taking down opponents from a distance. She blushed at his praise, while Pram eagerly awaited his own reward. Desire patted him on the head, which Pram happily accepted. Romantica, feeling a bit left out, also got a head pat and secretly enjoyed it, though she pretended not to. Aziz watched them enjoying themselves, smiling before she left. She had been called to a meeting about her loss, but before going, she asked Desire if she could join their next training session. Romantica and Pram weren't thrilled about it, but Desire gladly agreed. Later, the three met with Professor Bryjet. Romantica was a bit nervous, expecting the noble teachers to do something to hold them back, but Bryjet assured them they were officially promoted to Alpha class. All three of them were thrilled. They had finally earned their place among the elites. To celebrate, Romantica suggested they go out and have some fun in town. Desire hesitated, thinking they should focus on preparing for their new responsibilities, but Romantica insisted they deserved a break. Pram agreed, and they managed to convince Desire to relax for the day. Their first stop was a clothing store. Romantica tried on various outfits, putting on a mini fashion show for Desire and Pram. Pram seemed to enjoy it, but Desire's reactions were less enthusiastic, which annoyed her. She finally put on an outfit that seemed to impress him, only to realize he was actually complimenting Pram's outfit, not hers. Next, Pram insisted on choosing a tie for Desire, taking forever to decide on the perfect color and style. Desire stood there patiently while Romantica watched, amused by how serious Pram was taking it. When he finally picked a tie, they left the store feeling a bit tired, except for Pram, who was thrilled. As they walked around, Desire spotted Aziz at the mall. Surprised, he invited her to join them, which she took as a challenge. However, she quickly clarified she was joking and agreed to hang out. To ease any tension, Desire suggested a team game. He paired up with Romantica while Pram and Aziz formed the other team. Pram, disappointed he wasn't on Desire's team, wanted to finish the game quickly to switch teams. He started with a powerful shot, which Romantica countered by secretly using wind magic. Aziz wasn't about to let them win easily, so she used ice magic, and soon the game turned into a full-blown magical battle. After the game, they said goodbye to Aziz, who thanked them for the fun day. Romantica was relieved that she wouldn't have to compete with her, but she soon realized Aziz would be around a lot more now, as they'd be training and attending classes together. After the school break, Desire and his team finally step into Alpha class. They're amazed at how different it is from Beta class. Everything is so much fancier, the furniture, the equipment, even the classroom itself. It feels like a reward for all their hard work, but Desire doesn't let them forget why they're here. Even though they made it to Alpha class, he insists on keeping up with their intense training sessions. As they're about to begin, Aziz shows up, ready to train with them, so they all get down to work. Desire has planned out a long training schedule for everyone, carefully tailored to help each of them improve. He knows each person's strengths and weaknesses and adjusts the training just for them. By the end of the day, Aziz is really impressed by how good Desire is at leading. It's clear that he understands each person on a deep level and can coach them better than most of the professors. Desire takes her compliment well and reminds her that they'll meet up again for more training after classes. Romantica is exhausted, but Desire tells her they don't have much time left. He's been warning them that something dangerous is coming, and if they aren't strong enough to face it, people could actually get hurt or worse. He knows it's tough, but he asks her to trust him and keep pushing through. In their first alpha class, the teacher gives a lesson on the history of shadow worlds. Shadow worlds have been appearing on their continent for a long time, shrinking the land by about half its original size. Fortunately, the success rate of clearing shadow worlds has reached almost 100%, so they've stopped the spread for now. This progress is due to magic gems, which are powerful crystals of mana that appear when a shadow world is cleared. These gems contain massive energy, but they can't be used as is. 50 years ago, the Magic Tower figured out how to process these gems and use their mana, which led to incredible new technologies and magic advancements. The teacher catches Romantica drifting off and calls on her to answer a question. She's completely lost, but Desire whispers the answer to her and she manages to get it right just as the bell rings, ending the class. Afterward, Desire takes Romantica and Pram to see Professor Prelude. She doesn't recognize them at first, but when Desire introduces himself as a single ranker, she realizes who he is. Still, she doesn't know why they're there. Desire explains that he has a favor to ask. They move to a private meeting room, and he hands her a form requesting that his team be allowed to protect the Magic Tower. At first, Professor Prelude is confused and refuses, saying there's no reason for extra protection. Desire then tells her he knows about the Tear of Ral hidden in the tower and warns her that it will be stolen by the Outers if nothing is done within the next 10 hours. Prelude is shocked. Desire shouldn't have access to this information. However, she realizes the urgency and agrees to listen, though still suspicious. That night, just as Desire predicted, the attack on the Magic Tower begins. A masked man leads a team of attackers toward the tower, casting powerful spells together to break through its magical defenses. The tower guards are quickly alerted and rush to the entrance, ready to defend. But the intruders have special shields that block magical attacks. As the guards switch to physical combat, the main group sneaks away, using invisibility spells to stay hidden. Kraken, the leader of the intruders, eventually reaches the chamber holding the Tear of Ral. The artifact is surrounded by a barrier, but Kraken is confident he can break through it. After directing his team to attack the barrier, he walks up and casts a powerful spell, finally cracking it open. Just as Kraken is about to grab the tear, Pram steps in, sword ready, warning him to surrender. Kraken, confused as to how this kid knew about their attack, dismisses him and tells his team to eliminate Pram. Kraken's team surrounds Pram, launching spell after spell, but Pram is too fast. With skill and precision, he dodges their attacks and counters, knocking out several attackers without hurting them seriously. Kraken, seeing Pram's abilities, realizes this is no ordinary student. He casts a binding spell that immobilizes Pram and then attacks him with a stone pillar, throwing him across the room. Kraken taunts Pram, pointing out his lack of real combat experience. Kraken then sets a trap for Pram, hoping to corner him, but Romantica shows up just in time. She blasts Kraken's men with wind spells, forcing them back and giving Pram a chance to recover. Kraken becomes frustrated, wondering how his perfect plan got leaked. Deciding it's time to escape, he instructs his remaining guards to cover him while he prepares a teleportation spell. Pram charges forward, determined to stop him, and quickly takes down Kraken's guards. However, one guard holds his ground, giving Kraken the time he needs to cast another spell and hurl rocks at Pram. Pram dodges, darting around the room, trying to get closer to Kraken. Realizing Pram's strategy, Kraken destroys the floor beneath him, hoping to trap him, but Pram leaps back in time, managing to stay on solid ground. Kraken, frustrated by Pram's persistence, shows no remorse when his attack accidentally takes down his own guard, seeing his followers as disposable. Pram is disgusted by Kraken's lack of respect for his own team, even if they're enemies. Fueled by anger, he charges at Kraken, aiming for a direct attack. Kraken blocks his blow, impressed by Pram's swordsmanship, but confident that it won't be enough to stop him. Using his magic, Kraken surrounds himself with rotating rocks, creating an impenetrable shield that reforms every time Pram tries to break through, making Pram's close-range attacks useless. When Romantica tries to attack Kraken with magic from a distance, he quickly spots her and sends rocks hurtling toward her hiding spot, forcing her to come out. Kraken is furious that his plan is being messed up by a group of high school students, so he demands to know who is behind their defense. He can tell that they were somehow prepared for him, but Romantica and Pram aren't going to reveal anything. Enraged, Kraken warns them he'll make them suffer so much they'll regret ever standing in his way. He launches a series of rocks straight at Romantica, but Pram rushes past Kraken to intercept the rocks, smashing them before they reach her. Now standing together, Romantica sends more blasts of wind at Kraken, but he laughs, saying that her magic is way too weak to hurt him. Taking his hint, she decides to try sending stones back at him with Pram's help. Their attacks create a dust cloud between them, which Pram uses to get close for a final strike. But Kraken blocks the attack, then uses his strongest magic to completely shatter the floor and make a quick escape. Pram and Romantica just barely manage to escape from the rubble, realizing that they still have a lot of training to do if they want to get stronger. Meanwhile, Kraken feels confident as he runs off with the Tear of Ral in his possession. But before he can escape, Desire appears and stops him, revealing himself to be the poor boy Kraken had encountered earlier. Kraken is shocked, wondering how Desire managed to track him down. Desire explains that he marked Kraken with his own mana during their earlier encounter, which allowed him to find Kraken even in his hiding spot. Kraken realizes Desire is the mastermind behind the defense and tries to cast a spell in frustration, but Desire effortlessly counters it by inversing the spell, rendering Kraken's magic useless. Furious, Kraken attempts more rock spells, but Desire blocks each one with ease, telling Kraken that there's no point in trying magic against him because he'll just counter it. Kraken starts to panic as Desire walks closer. Desperate, Kraken pulls out the tear and threatens to destroy it if Desire comes any closer, but Desire doesn't flinch. He steps closer, calling Kraken's bluff. Out of options, Kraken throws a punch at Desire, but Desire uses a gravity spell, pinning Kraken to his knees. Kraken can't believe he's being overpowered by a student, as students shouldn't be able to cast high-level magic like Desire can. Desire then takes the tear from Kraken, and Kraken is astonished to see him use the crystal's power. Normally, no one can use an unprocessed tear like that, but Desire doesn't explain his methods. He just increases the pressure of his gravity spell, forcing Kraken lower to the ground. But Kraken isn't ready to give up yet. Using a hidden power in his mask, he transforms himself into a demonic creature. He charges at Desire, punching him through a wall. Although the punch could have been fatal, Desire quickly puts up a shield to stay in the fight. Kraken doesn't let up, tearing through walls and attacking Desire with both physical strength and magic. Desire struggles to keep up, finding it hard to handle both Kraken's raw strength and his magic attacks at once. Kraken finally manages to back Desire against a wall, leaving him with nowhere to escape. Just as Kraken throws another punch, Desire dodges and hits Kraken with a point-blank blast of fire. It has little effect, though, and Kraken counters with another rock spell that sends Desire flying. It's clear that Kraken's demonic form gives him a huge advantage, as he's able to attack relentlessly. Kraken launches a series of rapid attacks, giving Desire almost no time to reverse any spells and pushing him back steadily. With Desire on the ropes, Kraken charges up his ultimate attack, a giant rock hammer spell. Desire tries to counter it, but the spell keeps reforming every time he reverses it. Kraken smashes through Desire's layered shields with a final strike, laughing as he believes he's won. But from the dust, Desire reappears, having finally managed to reverse Kraken's magic hammer. Now that Desire has figured out Kraken's spells, he begins to weaken Kraken's magic and uses the tear's power to fuel a final, massive fireball. The fireball blasts Kraken hard, shattering his armor. Although Kraken survives, he's been completely defeated, and he can't believe the strength Desire possesses. Desire, however, is simply determined to protect the people he cares about. Later, Desire is in an elevator with Professor Prelude. She's surprised that his reward for saving the tear is just a chess game with the Tower Master, but Desire insists that this is all he wants. He enters the room to meet Zod Exarian, the strongest mage alive, and they begin their game. Zod quickly realizes that Desire is no ordinary player. During their match, Desire suggests a wager where the loser has to grant a request from the winner. At first, Zod refuses, but after Desire demonstrates a surprising technique with an unprocessed crystal, Zod is intrigued and accepts the bet. Meanwhile, at Pugman's villa, Azist is feeling out of place at a party. Pugman criticizes her for losing to Desire and blames her for the fallout, saying none of this would have happened if she'd just won. He even suggests she leave his party if she's unhappy. Taking his words to heart, Azist realizes she'd rather join Desire's group and throws down her membership pin, leaving the Blue Moon party behind. Back with his friends, Desire praises Romantica and Pram for their efforts in stopping the Outers from escaping with the tear. Though Romantica feels frustrated at how they struggled against Kraken, she knows they have a long way to go if they want to improve. Pram, sensing that Desire has been pushing them hard for a reason, finally asks why Desire is so determined to make them stronger. Desire decides it's time to tell them the truth. In just 13 days, a real Shadow World outbreak will occur. This isn't going to be a simulation, and if they fail to clear it, the world will face accelerated destruction. Romantica and Pram are shocked but realize Desire must be telling the truth. They've seen how strong he is, even though he's supposed to be at a beginner level, and how he's predicted events that should have been impossible for him to know. Though they still have questions, they both choose to believe in him and promise to work even harder so they can help prevent the world from ending. And that's where this video ends. Watch this next and I'll be back with more amazing content.